The moment you recognize that your emotions are data, not distractions, is the moment your leadership fundamentally transforms. I want to share a story that changed how I view leadership forever. 3 years ago, I was working with the executive team of a healthcare system facing unprecedented challenges. Patient satisfaction was plummeting, staff turnover had reached crisis levels, and the board was demanding immediate results. The CEO, Dr. Sarah Chen, had tried everything. Restructuring departments, bringing in efficiency consultants, even replacing several directors. Nothing moved the needle. During one particularly tense meeting, I noticed something remarkable. While everyone else was focused on spreadsheets and metrics, Dr. Chen was watching faces. She suddenly stopped the presentation and said something I'll never forget. "I think we're missing something fundamental here. The data tells one story, but the emotions in this room are telling another." She then did something unprecedented. She asked each executive to share not what they thought about the crisis, but how they felt about it. The floodgates opened. The CFO admitted feeling personally responsible for financial constraints that limited staffing. The chief of medicine revealed feeling torn between administrative demands and patient care. The HR director confessed feeling powerless to address the real reasons staff were leaving. What happened next was remarkable. The conversation shifted from blame to vulnerability, from defensiveness to curiosity. By acknowledging the emotional undercurrent that had been driving decisions, they identified blind spots that no amount of data analysis had revealed. Within 6 months, staff turnover decreased by 23%, patient satisfaction scores began climbing, and the board extended their full confidence in the leadership team. This experience taught me that emotional intelligence in leadership isn't just about managing your own emotions or being sensitive to others. It's about recognizing that emotions, both yours and those of your team, contain critical intelligence that conventional analysis often misses. Research from the Harvard Business Review confirms this, showing that leaders with high emotional intelligence outperform their peers by nearly 20% in business outcomes. This advantage isn't because they're nicer or more empathetic, though they often are. It's because they have access to richer data about what's really happening in their organizations. Let me break down the 4 components of emotional intelligence that create this leadership advantage. First, self-awareness. This isn't just knowing you feel frustrated or excited, it's understanding the patterns behind those emotions. Are you consistently triggered by certain types of feedback? Do particular situations cause you to shut down or become overly directive? The emotionally intelligent leader can name these patterns and recognize them as they emerge. Second, self-regulation. This isn't about suppressing emotions but channeling them productively. When that major client cancels or your strategic initiative gets challenged in the boardroom, can you use the emotional energy as fuel rather than letting it derail your effectiveness? Third, social awareness. This goes beyond basic empathy to what I call emotional systems thinking, the ability to read the emotional climate of a team or organization. What's not being said in meetings? Where is energy flowing or blocked? Which historical events still carry emotional charge? Finally, relationship management. This is where emotional intelligence becomes truly strategic. It's the ability to create conditions where others can bring their full intelligence, both rational and emotional, to the challenges at hand. I've found that most leadership development focuses heavily on the rational aspects of leadership: strategy, analysis, decision-making frameworks. These are essential, but they're also increasingly automated or augmented by technology. What remains uniquely human and therefore increasingly valuable is the ability to navigate the complex emotional terrain of organizational life. So how do you develop this critical capacity? Let me offer 3 practices that have proven most effective with the executives I coach. First, create a daily reflection ritual. Spend 5 minutes at the end of each day asking, what emotions were present for me today? What might they be telling me that I need to pay attention to? This simple practice builds the neural pathways for greater emotional awareness. Second, before important meetings or decisions, conduct what I call an emotional pre-mortem. Ask yourself, if this conversation goes poorly, what emotions might derail it? If this decision proves wrong, what emotional factors might I be missing? This practice, honestly, helps you identify emotional blind spots before they impact outcomes. Third, regularly solicit emotional feedback. Ask trusted colleagues, how does it feel to work with me when stakes are high? What emotional impact do I have on the team during challenges? This feedback reveals your emotional wake, the impact you leave behind that you may not see. The leaders who will thrive in the coming decade aren't just strategically smart, they're emotionally intelligent. They recognize that in a world of abundant information, the scarcest resource is wisdom about the human dynamics that drive real performance. I challenge you to approach your leadership this week with a new question, not just what do we need to do, but what emotions are shaping how we see this situation and what might they reveal that we're missing. Your greatest untapped leadership resource isn't another framework or methodology, it's the emotional intelligence that's already present in your organization, just waiting to be acknowledged and leveraged. What conversation might you need to revisit, this time with greater emotional awareness?